Hello, hello. This is Irene with SaugaTalks. Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're listening to us on LinkedIn, if you are on major podcasting platforms, on YouTube, on X, okay, please show us some support. All right. Please like, share with your networks, with your peers, with everybody, because I speak with fascinating people in tech, and we discuss topics all the way from tech trends to go-to-market strategies to partnership, a lot of interesting angles, all the way from big enterprise AI solutions to advisors to startups. And today I'm very privileged because Jens Stengaard Jacobsen with me. Jens, how are you?
Doing great, thank you, and thank you for having me in the SaugaTalks today. Looking forward to
Absolutely,
the talk.
absolutely. I love the topic of our discussion because guess what? Okay, everywhere I go, I do hear about healthcare innovations. I talk a lot about AI solutions in health tech, in healthcare overall, worldwide. Okay, in US, it's a huge industry, huge investments, big risks, big rewards. Okay, that's why
Mm.
it's so wonderful to speak with you because you have an experience in go to market, in partnership, in technology adoption. And I just want to see, where do you think we stand right now in 2025 June it is, right? So where do you see the industry is right now? Couple of points that grabbing your attention.
Yeah, well, as you say, there is and there's been a lot of hype about health tech and digital health. I think we're in a period now where people are rethinking their priorities and saying, "Hey, we need revenue, actual revenue. We need actual impact and seeing that these tools actually work." So the bar is getting higher for what it takes to get investments and to succeed in the market, I'd say. So it's a period of reconciliation, I'd say.
Long time overdue, because many were talking about AI bubble, the new bubble that was just still
Mhm.
forming in our eyes, right? And
It's still
how
forming.
risky
Yeah.
or how rewarding it is, right, to make the investment in AI solutions. And of course, startups, huge part of innovation
Mm.
ecosystem, right? So with your experience, could you please share what the successes or again disasters you see out there? It's a very broad question, but I just want to focus on your point of view, your experiences.
Yeah.
Please enlighten us.
Yeah, well, as you say, with AI entering into healthcare and being a large part of many solutions that are coming out right now, the solutions that I see really work are really those that are able to find like a vertical, not the broad ones where that you could use for everything. I mean, I think most of us are able to use ChatGPT for very broad, but if you're going into and you need to be able to sell AI and succeed with AI and within healthcare, you need to go like vertically, master one area very deeply, and get a foothold there because it just takes a long time with the validation that's needed in healthcare and the trust that you need to build there. So yeah, where I see what's needed to succeed is really to get into a specific, quite narrow problem you solve with your tech and start there. You can always expand from there, but I see that tendency in what works and what kind of doesn't work.
It's the toughest angle, right, to any solution, to large
Mm.
company solution, to really to start up innovative pilot even, right, to find that pain point and really create
Mm.
a solution for the pain point,
Mm.
not
Mm.
like a solution that's looking for a problem. You see what I
Yeah,
mean? Could you please
and that's all.
elaborate? Yes. Mhm.
I mean that's often where founders start. That is having a great solution, looking for a problem, and and that makes sense. I mean, a lot of startups come out of great innovation environments that are tech based and solutions appear, but at some point, some as early as possible, going back and say, okay, what are the problems out there? The target group that we're probably going to see are going to use this, how is their everyday life? How does that look like? How does it look like to be a healthcare professional, consulting, prescribing treatments, caring for patients? What's the how does the everyday life look like there? What's important? What's at stake? What are the economic incentives, the systemic incentives, and so on? What's thousands of problems these people will have? Which one are we going to solve that can be solved with our solution? Where do we have that match? And that actually takes more field work and more going out and talking to people than most people are comfortable with, and have the um uh I mean that they can wait to find that now we're really scaling, but can stay in that process long enough to really meet a problem. And that's often investors are looking to get their return on investment faster than what's possible within healthcare. I think the upside is larger because it's the big problems we're solving, but I think being patient. I've yeah, I'm hoping and praying for more patience in healthcare, because it does take a longer time, but the upside is also larger. Um,
Absolutely. What kind of conversations are happening? Okay, so let's
mm,
enlighten the audience. The founders, all the
mm,
innovators, right? Those who don't
yeah.
necessarily have day-to-day contacts. Okay, we know how many solutions being invented in the lab, so to speak. You mentioned, right, with
Mm, mm,
technology being a driver, meaning that,
mhm,
hey, let's apply these, to that particular industry, to that particular problem that we think exists. Okay, so at the
mm, mm,
same time, what kind of conversation happening on the receiving side in healthcare organizations, okay, in those big
mhm,
provider groups, okay, when they selecting the vendor, when they
yeah.
thinking where do we need to put our, where, earned money into, right, what workflows we have to
Mm.
change within our organizations, how that works.
So I'd like to separate that group into two, because there are people within the healthcare organizations, hospitals, insurance, and so on, that are dealing specifically with this. A few people that are sort of scouting, finding out how to collaborate, how do we innovate, and so on. Um, and then there's a much larger group that are just normal healthcare professionals, or a professor in something, or at the ward level, that um, that have the problems and can be amazing ambassadors. And I think for that group, they're not sort of going out there and looking for solutions. They're often quite open if you approach them in the right way, and will often be the first point of contact coming into the healthcare system. Um, so what I see is that a lot of people are successful in connecting with these just kind of ordinary healthcare professionals that might be interested in um, having digital health tech as part of their career path. That's something they're interested in. The upcoming, but connecting with these, developing the solutions on sort of the hospital floor, can be maybe the only possible, and also quite impactful way to do it, because that could be access to those that buy the solutions at some point. But they want to see clinicians using it before, right? They want to see pilots. They want to see proof that it's valuable before they go and buy solutions. So, and the discussions they're having at the hospital floor, that's, I mean, that's resources. They're really spread thin with their time and the money at hospitals right now, and it's only getting worse. More and more people have more diseases and are getting older and so on, and there are less and less nurses and doctors to treat them. So um, for them, it's all the time discussing, okay, will this solve enough for me? to um, well, they're also thinking return on investment, right? They are so stretched on time that if they spend time on implementing something, they might stress out their department because it's really up here. So on the other side, when you're creating a great health tech solution, you need to be super aware of this, that you're selling to people that just don't have time, and you need to, before you improve quality, you need to save time, because all changes take some kind of effort to make, even though they're great changes. But for them, it's saving time or money before improving quality, unfortunately. But you all the time, you the time they spend with your product and implementing that, they could have spent that with the patient, right? And so it makes sense. So yeah, these are the discussions. They're weighing in on how much time do we need to use to implement this. They're also discussing, do others do this? I mean, social proof within healthcare is just like any other industry. Like, I mean, they're looking to other healthcare professionals. Have they done this? Almost it should have been invented at my hospital, but that's best, and with my mentor or the people that I'm looking to. So building social proof is extremely important in that business.
True, and in part it connected to fear of missing out. There is this term,
Yeah,
right? Exactly,
yeah,
because if my
it
competitor,
can,
right?
yeah, it can switch into that, and that's great if you can ignite that, the FOMO, because um but there's also a big fear of being a fool, that you ran with something that wasn't validated, that didn't have the impact. So the FOMO and the fear of being a fool, I think they're competing there, in the minds of the people that are going to implement it and pull it in to the departments.
Fascinating, some fascinating dynamics, okay, that make the innovation
Yeah,
in the whole world, moving forward. So
yeah.
can you point to some of the like clear mistakes, okay, that maybe these excited AI founders, AI startup founders,
Mm.
okay, or
Mm.
any
Hmm.
technology founders, right? What are they making on what they don't know, entering that complex landscape of
Yeah.
conflicting at the same time, igniting possibilities?
Well, so I would say two things. I think the main thing is to go in and find um, that you have a great solution that doesn't have a place in the workflow of the healthcare professionals or the patients you're trying to help. So you need to really map, how does the workflow of the healthcare professional that was going to use your tool, how does that look like, or how does the everyday life of the patient that is going to be helped by whatever tool you have. You need to know that quite well, both before going to market but also afterwards, because it'll change because of your tool. You need to know that, and you need to know exactly what existing workflow you're fitting into and how you're changing that, and making the habits around using your tool easy to do, because us um, people are just very prone to go into habits, and it's something of the most difficult to change, and it's something of the most valuable that we have. It's continuous doing something. That's where we get really can make an impact, right? So we wanna tap into existing habits, and we wanna um, know what quote unquote bad habits that we are changing, and be very mindful about that. And I think a lot of tech entrepreneurs going into health are not enough aware about that, and the habits connected to our health are just very very close and can be intimate. and the workflows and the habits that are part of healthcare professionals' workflows are very habitual, and it's really on the spine that you just need to get a lot of stuff done. So yeah, moving in and be very aware about the habits already there, how you tap into it, how your intervention is going to change that, and what comes out of it. Super, super key. The other thing, which is I think a bit more specific to healthcare, is the whole what claims are you making? And I think it's important in the beginning not to be too bold about what claims you're making about the amazing change you can do within a specific field. And the reason for that is that within healthcare, you may need to validate your claims. If it has an impact on people's health, on the decisions about treatment, and so on, you may need a CE mark or FDA approval, depending on your continent, where you're in the world. So and that will take clinical studies, and the larger the claim, the more demanding clinical studies you need to make, and the more time it will take for you to go to market. So you're actually risking going out, having a big claim that it will take you a couple of years actually to be able to validate that, and you might have a competitor with a smaller claim that can just swoop into the market and afterwards have a lot of real world evidence for the solution just by being the market, and then can sort of take over your position. So it's, or you run out of investor money and so on, because it just takes time. So being mindful about that claim and how that hits the habit and the change you want to make, just super super key. You make it too small, no one will use it. You make it too large, it's just going to take too long. So finding that balance is not easy, and but it's a mistake a lot of people make, to sort of assume that it needs to be high, or assuming that is lower than it should be.
Did you find helpful, okay, to have part of startup, if not founders, but at least very closely connected to idea, to the solution, the highly esteemed, okay, medical professional, or part
Mm-hmm.
of the innovative company, okay? Because I know a lot of engineers, I know a lot of founders, okay? Not
Yeah.
every startup has this expertise under their belt. Do you find it
Mm-hmm.
helpful, or it's rather, not significant factor?
Oh, that's very dependent on, again, the claim you're trying to make or the change you're making. Um, what we've seen is that partnering with um, part well, so within healthcare, you have like kings and queens within different areas, and you have the top clinical experts. I've seen that they're not always the best to partner with, because they just don't have the time to be part of innovation, because they're sort of writing the guidelines for treatment. I mean, they have so much going on for them. It's rather the upcoming healthcare professionals that are curious about tech, that want to create a name, and need to sort of do that in a way that the more established key opinion leaders have done. So what I've seen can work really well is partnering up with those that yeah, up and coming within an area. Get them as part of your advisory board, perhaps. Um, I mean, being fully on the team is not always the best solution, because then they also can lose the connection to clinical practice. It's if it's possible, then of course it's a great resource to have, because they know the habits, the workflows, the problems, the pressure of their colleagues. But it can easily be done as an advisory role, or partnering in different ways, collaborating on making pilots and so on, to get them close, because the knowledge is super key. I'd also say keeping patient experts, like any other area, having an illness, you can be at a noob level and you can be at a almost professional level, and the patient organizations are often where you can um, you can find people that have a broader understanding of the how it is to live with a disease, and having these people close can be can give a lot to know about how will this how will your digital solution actually pan out when it's out there in the world. So they can also be important experts. We've had a lot of success with putting them together in co-creation groups. Just hearing their discussions, it's a great dynamic having healthcare professionals and patients in the same group, because it's just different dialogues when they collaborate and about something digital or tech. It's super helpful to letting them guide, and their discussions guide the development. That can be very powerful, and super important ambassadors when you need to do the implementation, right?
Sure. Could you maybe share some successes, okay?
Yeah,
Without specifics, but some projects that were done right, hopefully avoiding mistakes you were talking about. What the kind of,
yeah,
right? Yeah, great, inspiring story. Anything you could share?
yeah. I mean, so there is a project, and it's within well, within cancer, an app and patient-reported outcome measure app within for young people with cancer, um, that we actually started with a talk with a professor at a hospital, just at a conference. Out of, hey, we need to do something here. Can we help each other out? And what was interesting there, that the first round of funding for that was actually going to the pharmaceutical industry and say, hey, there's an interesting a project here. Could you all put in a bit to get it started and get the co-creation, getting the initial ideation going for how can we help this group. Um, and what we did there was to gather a group of young people living with cancer that were already at the same hospital, took them out of the hospital setting, and worked with ideation about how could this look like, and from there created a concept, um, and found further funding from that was actually from the insurance foundations. Um, Taking it from there, getting validation. I think they wrote about 10 different articles about the impact of the health of the app on the health of the users. So documenting the effect, um, and getting through all these. I mean, there's a lot of barriers when it comes to implementation when you're implementing an app service at a hospital. I mean, there's compliance is just super important. So and that took about half or 1 year just getting through the legal compliance things. But on the other side of that, we went on a fast track for implementation, um, and got a reimbursement agreement for like a 5 year reimbursement agreement rolling out to all hospitals in Denmark, all cancer departments. So it's now a solution that all young people living with cancer can access, and they have a community where they can exchange um, how it is and get help, support each other, and there's also some tracking modules there to help. So it's not like that's not a very advanced solution. I mean, it's a community, it's tracking, it's a lot of great knowledge, great video, a lot of great content, but it's not like super high tech. But it was implementable, and it was possible to go to these stages, and then you can work from there, of course. Then there's a lot of things going on how to improve from there, but you have a foothold in there. So I think there are a few learnings from that is, the crowdfunding where you find different areas, arrays of funding. There's a whole co-creation going very closely to the people that are going to use it, and the implementation. I mean, people from the inside of the system pulling it towards them made a huge difference there. Um, and starting relatively simple, solving a problem. Young people with cancer, how can they connect to each other? How can we, even though you're far away on the countryside, not close to a university hospital, how can you still access the connection that you need with other people going through the same crisis that it is to have a cancer diagnosis? That's a fairly quote unquote simple problem, but solving that can really be a bridge towards being implemented and being used and working from there. I'd say that's a huge success story.
Could you please share once kind of the door is half open, okay, in large organization? So for the startup, for smaller, younger organization, not by age, by just experience and energetic, new innovators, how do you scale within each organization? Because we know large hospital groups, large healthcare organizations, they're multi-tiers, multi-hierarchical, right, structures, okay? So what's your advice in terms of once you kind of have your contacts and maybe first success already, okay, what kind of thinking needs to happen at that stage?
How do you build from there? I think it's back to the social proof point again, that you need to get that pilot, and sometimes we call it pilotitis, as a disease. That's just pilot, but you need to get that, and it's not only to prove the impact of your tool, is also to get the ambassadors on the inside, because at some point where you're going up in the hierarchies, they will always be looking towards, are there someone on the floor that can benefit from this, and if there's not, there's just no case to be made, even though the economy is there. But they also know that if it's not being used, if it doesn't add immediate value, it's not, I mean, it's not going to be implemented. So they will be looking at, will there be a group of physicians and patients benefiting from the get go. On the other side of that, there's a business case. So like any other big organizations, whenever you spend money or time, whatever resources you have, there needs to be a business case. So you need someone on the team who's able to build a business case that resonates with the hospital management, or whatever payer there is here. And it really taps into, how do you save time? How do you save maybe treatments? Can you delay how early people need the very expensive treatments that we see in the healthcare system? Yep. How can we argue there? And unfortunately, uh, just higher quality is not really an argument. I mean, you need to save money and you need to save time, and yeah, that's what I've seen resonate well when going up to the sort of really the buyers and decision makers, at hospitals and health organizations, insurance companies, and so on.
The time is flying, we're only
Really,
scratching the surface. It's a
we're
huge
being a good company,
opportunity,
Irene.
huge industry, right? Huge opportunities, at the same time a lot of pitfalls, right, that everyone who works
Mm.
there know, and they get beaten up badly, okay, before the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
success, right? But at
yeah,
the same
yeah,
time you get that precious wisdom that doesn't come from books, it doesn't come from classes,
exactly.
it's really when you're out there, right, trying. And yeah, this feel of that success, I can only imagine.
Mm.
All right, how
Mm-hmm.
rewarding
Mm-hmm.
and how
Mm.
fabulous it is. In summary, in conclusion of this conversation, Jens, could you please share a few takeaways, okay? Because we
Mm.
have technology professionals, we have business professionals in healthcare and outside of healthcare listening to
Yeah,
us. So could you please kind of leave our audience with few takeaways?
I think my key insight that I've gained is really that, scaling in healthcare just it happens at the speed of trust. I mean, building credibility in the more slow sense, it's just needed, and there are different ways to do that, and it's very dependent on what area you're in. But building that trust about that you can deliver on your claims, you you're worth the time investment and so on. I think that's the maybe I mean, all other if industries, trust is also really key, but it's just more so in healthcare, and has a huge impact on the development history of companies, that you need to build that. You need to have the time and resources and focus to build trust around what you're doing.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you, Jens, so very much for your time. Thank you for sharing the
Thank
insights and
you.
wisdom with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Irene. Take care.